Today we'll talk about disparity in unemployment rates among protected classes. Our group members are Alexis Graham, Dylan Helsper, Catherine Freeman, and Joel Dodd. An overview of what we'll talk about today. We'll talk about each protected class, its history, we'll give some industry examples, and then we'll offer some recommendations. The protected classes are race, color, national origin, religion, sex, age, and disability. It's illegal to discriminate on any of the protected classes in employment in the United States.
Hi, my name's Dylan, and our first protected class is race. Like ethnicity, race is a social construct that was initially associated with the common language usage among a population. It has evolved through the years to become more reflective of a combination of physical characteristics and linguistic differences. The concept of race certainly has subjectivity associated with it, and it is open to each individual's interpretation. There is no significant biological differentiation between members of separate races, and that regardless of race, we all belong to a common species. Examples of race are white Americans, Native Americans, blacks or African Americans, Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, Hispanics, and/or people of two or more races. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 is the most applicable legislation related to the identification of race as a protected class. However, it should be mentioned that race and color were among the first protected classes in the U.S. history with the passing of the Civil Rights Act of 1864. This is a graph from the Bureau of Labor Statistics from a survey gathered in 2017, charting the various unemployment rates against the Bureau-recognized race groups. What is important to note here is that the rates of unemployed are almost double amongst Native Americans and African Americans when compared to their Asian and white counterparts. Below are a few examples of organizational failures to adequately employ members of protected race groups. In October of 2017, Bass Pro agreed to pay $10.5 million to a group of African American and Hispanic applicants after the EEOC alleged Bass Pro discriminated against African American applicants by refusing to hire them because of their race in violation of Title VII. Earlier that same year, Ford Motor Company agreed to pay $10.125 million to settle sex and race harassment investigation by the EEOC. The EEOC found reasonable cause to believe that personnel at two Ford facilities had subjected female and African American employees to sexual and racial harassment. Below are a few strategies that companies can deploy in order to mitigate some of the issues that were mentioned earlier today. Setting organizational goals. Many publicly traded companies now have goals that help drive diversity and inclusion and publish them each year in their filings with the SEC and their shareholders. Scholarships. Scholarships and awards are a great way to attract strong talent while advertising the inclusion of a particular race into an organizational culture. Training. The best way to get strategic initiatives to the frontline employees is a robust training program that encourages racial inclusion best practices.
Our next protected class is color. Color discrimination is discrimination based on the pigmentation, complexion, skin shade, lightness, darkness, or any other color characteristic of a person. People between the same race can discriminate against each other based on their skin color. The EEOC launched the E-Race initiative in 2008 in efforts to eliminate workplace discrimination based on color and race. The Verstraete et al. Did a study in 2018 that showed that males with darker skin tones are negatively impacted in the earnings arena over their lifetime. A positive industry leader is Pinterest. They launched a public diversity campaign which increased hiring to increase the rate of minorities in their engineering department to 5%. A negative industry leader is Abercrombie & Fitch. In June 2003, they discriminated against African Americans, Latinos, and Asian American applicants because they didn't serve classic looks. As a result, they paid $40 million in settlements. National origin is our next protected class. It's illegal to discriminate against someone in employment based on their national origin. The Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986 made it illegal to restrict hiring to only U.S. applicants unless required. Also, it made it illegal to question lawful documents. Organizations can use E-Verify to ensure that someone is authorized to work in the United States. Our recommendations: offer diversity training to your workforce. Make sure there's an anti-discrimination policy in place. Are your hiring practices in compliance? You may need a third party to assist. Voluntary information such as age and race should always be optional on job applications. And hire more ethnic minorities. It could never hurt your organization.
So now we're going to discuss age as a protected class. So a brief history: age discrimination is described as treating an applicant or employee less favorably because of his or her age. In 1967, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Discrimination in Employment Act. This act protects individuals who are age 40 and over from discriminatory practices in their place of employment. The act was passed due to findings the older work population being denied employment opportunities based on false stereotypes based on discriminatory behavior. So some statistical analysis: the data provided by the Bureau of Labor Statistics via the labor force statistics from the current population survey. Individuals aged 45 to 54 years fluctuated in employment rates throughout the 2018 year, but started the year at 2.9% in January and ended the year at 2.9% in December. Individuals aged 55 years and over started the 2018 year at 3.2% in January and ended the year at 2.9% in December. Some positive industry leaders are Tufts Health Plan and FCCI. They both have 34% of their workforce aged 50 and over. Tufts Health Plan offers a great 401k that includes a supplemental match of 3% each year on top of the standard 4% match. So a negative industry leader is Texas Roadhouse. A lawsuit was filed against the company by the EEOC on behalf of applicants. Applicants stated that they were denied front-of-the-house positions like servers and bartenders because of their age. As a result of this lawsuit, the company paid $12 million in order to settle and change their hiring practices. So some recommendations are to hire based on competency, provide good benefits, and promote an overall culture of diversity and inclusion. Next, we'll go into a religion as a protected class. So religious discrimination is described as treating a person unfavorably because of his or her religious beliefs. In the Civil Rights Act of 1964, religion is included as a protected class. This act protects people who participate in organized religions as well as those who have sincerely held religious, ethical, or moral beliefs. So some positive industry leaders are Ernst & Young and Ford Motor. EY provides quiet rooms for individuals who need time to pray during the day and accommodates employees who have diet restrictions with lunch options. Ford Motor provides employees with facilities after work to hold religious meetings, and they have a Ford Interfaith Network with a board of representatives across many different religions. A negative industry leader is Cargill Meat Solutions. They changed their policies, which resulted in their Somali American Muslim workers losing break time to pray during the day. The workers ended up being fired due to protests, which resulted in those individuals filing a lawsuit against the company. The company agreed to settle for a $1.5 million payout to the 138 workers affected. A recommendation, or a few recommendations, are to continuously review and refine policies regarding religious practices, provide private rooms for those who need prayer time during the day, and incorporate flexible scheduling for individuals who may need to attend religious activities during the work week.
Education. Now we will examine sex as a protected class and recommendations for engagement. Sex exists as a protected class due to the disparity of treatment between the sexes among individuals with comparable education and experience. According to the EEOC, the female workforce has increased by approximately 24% since World War II. In the same amount of time, the share of men outside of the workforce has more than doubled. Despite this transition seen, men are still significantly more likely to gain seniority and higher salaries across a variety of industries. We've identified industry leaders that provide positive and negative examples for treatment of this protected class. Principal, Penn Medicine, and Hallmark have been recognized by Forbes as 3 of the best companies for female employees, primarily due to the favorable policies they have implemented regarding diverse hiring, mentorship, intentional growth avenues, culture, and attractive benefits. Based on these examples, we recommend implementing intentional advancement opportunities for females and LGBTQ members, opportunities for mentorship, networking, and development, marketable benefits that are attractive to young professional women with and without families, and extension of benefits to LGBTQ partners. Now we will examine disability as a protected class and recommendations for engagement. The disabled are a unique protected class due to the low level of employment. A mere 20% of this population are employed. One major factor in this is the lower level of education typically achieved by individuals with disabilities. However, those who are able to achieve higher levels of education are generally more likely to be employed. A disability is a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits a major activity, and in order to qualify for a position, an individual must be able to perform all functions with or without reasonable accommodation. We have identified industry leaders that provide both positive and negative examples for treatment of this protected class.
Rooms for
A research team out of Rutgers and Syracuse utilized a fake resume technique to evaluate the results of a disclosed disability in job applications. The data indicated that applicants with disabilities were 26% less likely to be pursued, and overwhelmingly, small businesses were less likely to pursue those applicants. This would imply that the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, is successfully being implemented, as small businesses with fewer than 15 employees are exempt from the law. Businesses subject to ADA pursued these applicants at higher rates. Based on these examples, we recommend using asset-based thinking to identify populations that would be able to provide mutually beneficial services within your company. Providing support to these individuals during onboarding and throughout their tenure. Tracking and reviewing results in order to champion and improve these initiatives. Considering what technology would make a variety of roles more feasible for individuals with disabilities, and following general best practices for interacting with individuals with disabilities.
This is Dylan Helsper, and on behalf of Group 2, Alexis Graham, Catherine Freeman, and Jewel Dodd, thank you for watching.